My name's Brandon and this is Video Game History, a show where I look back on a certain franchise of video games and retrospectively review them. In the early 2000s, everybody was trying to piggyback off the success Nintendo had seen with Mario Kart and Mario Party, and Cartoon Network were no exception to this. Cartoon Network Block Party was their answer to the super successful Mario Party series. The Block Party name was actually used for a comic book series that started in November 2004, but as far as I can tell, these weren't a crossover series like this game is. The Cartoon Network Block Party video game was released for Game Boy Advance in August 5, 2004 in North America, and September 15 in PAL regions. It was also released in a double pack with Cartoon Network Speedway. Monkey Stone Games served as the developers, while Majesco Entertainment took control of the publishing. Monkey Stone Games never really did much of note. In fact, Block Party was their most noteworthy game. Block Party seemed to be received pretty well in terms of Cartoon Network games. It has a 52 on Metacritic, but when you look a little deeper, it's slightly misleading. It has one positive review, an 85, but the other three are 50 and under. Considering Nintendo Power gave it a 4.2, I'm not very optimistic. As soon as the game kicks off, you're treated to some funky beats. In fact, most of the music in this game is pretty damn good, so thumbs up for Monkey Stone Games so far. As I said earlier, Block Party is Cartoon Network's take on a Mario Party style game. There are 14 mini-games, which seems kinda small, but when you think that this is on the Game Boy Advance, it's actually a decent batch. However, you only have 4 different game boards to choose from. Maybe they could have fit more in, but the reason they only have 4 is because the characters in this game are only from 4 Cartoon Network franchises. There are only 6 characters available: Eddie, Sarah, Cow, Chicken, Johnny Bravo, and Courage. There are no unlockable characters either. Actually, there's no unlockable anything in this game. This character selection is somehow worse than the one on offer in Cartoon Network Speedway. At this point in 2004, Cartoon Network had a diverse and wide-ranging stable of characters, so it's disappointing to see developers whiff on the character selection in 2 crossover games so far. You have 3 game mode choices on offer here. The first is the option to play minigames individually, while the other 2 are Quick Play and Tournament. Quick Play allows you to play through just one game board, while Tournament will see you playing through all 4 boards in a row. The tournament also has cutscenes before and after each board, which creates a loose narrative for why the characters are going around these areas. It's entirely unnecessary, but overall, it's a nice addition. The biggest problem with tournament mode is how ridiculously easy it is. To win here, you generally need to collect 3 items as well as $50 and then return to the start. The items are earned by winning the mini-games in all boards except Johnny Bravo's, while you'll be constantly earning cash as you travel around. I found that the game can be rather random on whether it awards you an item for winning a minigame though. Many times I'd win games and receive absolutely nothing, and I'm really not sure why. I can only assume this is a bug and not actually supposed to be happening. When it does work properly though, the problem it creates is that you can easily get everything you need in your first loop around the board, meaning games can end in like 10 minutes. It's not even that the AI are incredibly easy to beat in the games, they're actually incredibly competitive in quite a few of them. It's just that there's so many minigames played in your first run around the board that it's almost impossible to not have everything. On the flip side, minigames are made almost pointless in Johnny Bravo's board. In this board, you only need to win one minigame because the other 3 items you need are bought with the currency that you earn. This means you can just ignore almost all the minigames and cross your fingers that you get favourable rolls of the dice. You'll most likely beat the entire tournament mode in under an hour. That's if you don't get some shitty luck and lose a game, because if you do, you don't just have to redo that one specific board, you have to start the entire thing again. Considering there's no reward for beating it or anything, I don't see why anybody would want to replay it if they fail at the final hurdle. After you've beaten the tournament mode, there's really nothing for you to do. Mario Party has always been about the multiplayer, with the single player just being a nice little bonus on the side. However, here multiplayer can't really be a focus due to the limitations of it being on the GBA. This means the game has basically no lifespan, as once you've played through the tournament mode, you'll have played all of the minigames so many times that you'll be sick of them. Cartoon Network Block Party's gameplay almost entirely hinges on the minigames, so let's take a more in-depth look at them. To kick things off, let's look at the skateboard minigame. Here you have to do tricks by following the button prompts on screen. It's pretty simple stuff, but my biggest gripe is that you're just there by yourself and you don't even get to see what your opponents do. Once you've completed your 30 seconds, it takes you to a leaderboard where random AI scores have been plonked. It does this for probably around half the minigames, which is annoying. The best minigames in Mario Party are the ones where you're competing against other players, so being forced to play on my own so often was lame. Not to mention how shitty it feels to lose a game to somebody that you never even saw. Speaking of not being able to see opponents, there are multiple games where you won't see all the players you're competing against. You play against 3 other AI opponents in this game, but in minigames like the pig catching one and the Tractor Grand Prix, you're only racing against 2 other opponents. Despite this, it still ranks the other AI characters at the end. I really couldn't believe what I was seeing at first. It's just incredibly poor game design. The variety of minigames on offer here is also poor. I mentioned earlier that having 14 minigames is a pretty good effort for a GBA game, but what I didn't mention is that most of the minigames are identical. Many of the games follow the same format of just having to follow along with the button prompts on screen, and this gets played out almost immediately. Then there are cases where 2 minigames are literally identical, but just given a fresh coat of paint. Take Cold Cash Workout and Waltzing Weremoles for example. These 2 games are exactly the same, but one is given a Courage the Cowardly Dog aesthetic, and the other Johnny Bravo aesthetic. Overall, there's probably only 5 properly unique minigames on offer here. The lack of diversity is made even worse when you factor in that each board has a preference to what minigames are chosen. If you're on the Cow and Chicken board, you can bet your ass you'll be playing one of the few Cow and Chicken minigames over and over again. This makes the game tedious and a bore to play. The game tries to keep things interesting by upping the difficulty every time you play a minigame on a board. Each game is harder than the last, but this just creates some serious problems instead of making things fresh or fun and interesting. It's particularly obvious in Cold Cash Workout, where the game becomes unplayable after the first time. I also found that I didn't even encounter every minigame despite playing through the whole tournament mode. I'll chalk this down to being a side effect of the boards having a bias towards which minigames are chosen. I played the zombie game literally 0 times, but I played the pig catching and water balloon shooting games like 20 times plus. Finally, there are also numerous cases where minigames aren't explained well enough and you're thrust into it without knowing what to do, or worse, having been told the completely wrong thing to do.
Will that complete your order?
Potatoes?
Yeah, we got that. Anything else?
Potatoes?
Drive around, please.
Potatoes?
Cartoon Network Block Party had potential as a handheld Cartoon Network answer to Mario Party, but it fails on almost all fronts. There's a distinct lack of characters on offer, and the minigame selection is poor at best. I felt like I was being hit with problem after problem while playing Block Party, even though it only took me around an hour to see everything it had to offer. With the distinct lack of variety on offer here, and absolutely nothing to do once you finish tournament mode, and no reward for doing so, it feels like this was another rush job. Either way, it's another Cartoon Network game that had stacks of potential, but ended up squandering it away.